Okay, so of course we are going to have a whole lot of stuff to talk about here, and we're going to dive into what's going to happen with the CDC. Well, the one thing that's going to happen is they want to get rid of the whole COVID surveillance system, and they want to replace it, or not replace it, but they want to add an abortion surveillance system. They want to know who's getting all these abortions. The CDC's abortion surveillance and maternity mortality reporting systems are woefully inadequate because that information is captured by the state, by the way. I don't understand why Dr. Carson isn't doing this section, but I'm just going to let you all have it because he's coming up next with the Department of Health and Department of Housing and Urban Development. They put Dr. Carson in the projects. I don't know why they did that, but we're going to talk about it. The abortion surveillance data are woefully inadequate for a lot of reasons, because the way it's captured, it's usually captured as fetal deaths. Lord have mercy. Liberal states have now become sanctuaries for abortion tourism. I didn't realize that we were literally like selling package for like flight and hotels for abortions. I mean, that might not be a bad idea, but I'm not encouraging that. HHS should use every available tool, including the cutting of funds, to ensure that every state reports exactly how many abortions take place within its borders, the gestation of the child. Remember, language is very important, okay? Because if it's a child, can we also get child support for it? No, we can't. We're going to talk about child support in a second because that's in here too, which I don't understand because that's really not under... let's keep going. For what reason, the mother's state of residence, and the method. So this is where you're going to have concerns. Because if you are from a state and you go to another state to seek abortion services, that has to be reported. Project 2025 wants to know what's going on in your uterus at all times. That's what they want the CDC to do. Enough of like doing child deaths and safety and morbidity, mortality weekly report on communicable diseases. We don't really care about that because, everyone should have, free will and diversity and scientific thought. This tracking abortions is what the CDC needs to be doing, according to the Heritage Foundation. In addition, CDC should require monitoring and reporting for complications due to abortion. You mean like death when they don't happen? Can we report that? Can we report death from sepsis because... Can't report that. In every instance of children being born alive after an abortion. This is what happens when you have non-physicians writing this shit. This is what happens. Cases of children born alive after an abortion. Abortion should be clearly defined as only those procedures that intentionally end an unborn child's life. But then why? What? Miscarriage management or standard ectopic pregnancy treatments should never be conflated with abortion, except they are. Except they are. And there lies the problem. Let's continue with the role of the CDC in managing and surveillance of abortions. We also want the CDC to track many of these abortions take place and they're considered failed abortions because it doesn't result in the termination of the products of conception? I think we need to, I understand that the Heritage Foundation is all about diversity of scientific thought, but at some point we got to come down to earth. Most abortions take place, most elective abortions take place before the 10th week of gestation. There are no babies at a 10-week-old fetus is not a baby. It's not we're not talking about kindergartners here, okay? Because if we were really concerned about babies, then we would probably do better with firearms access, right? Let's continue. The other thing, too, is that most therapeutic abortions are usually due to very tragic circumstances. Fetal death, maternal morbidity. People are not just nilly-willy waking up at 32 weeks pregnant and saying, hey, let me go and get an abortion because I'm bored and I want to snap back to go to Miami for the weekend. It's not happening. It's not happening. And with all this swift termination of parental rights you want to do to living children, wouldn't you think that if someone at 39 weeks did not want to parent, that might be a good person to talk to about adoption options? Because abortion is off the table at that point. You don't abort a 39-week pregnancy. You deliver a full-term child. And at that point, the decision is to not parent. Okay, moving right along. So, in addition to the CDC just monitoring abortions, now we want the FDA, because they fall slightly under the Department of Health and Human Services, to stop these mail order abortions. Y'all got to stop them. Allowing mail order abortion is a gift to the abortion industry. What the hell does that even mean? What does that even mean? There are circumstances where using chemical abortion methods, the abortion pill, not to be confused with emergency contraception, that prevents implantation. They don't want that either, by the way. It literally can mean the difference of someone staying in an abusive relationship or getting out. Because trapping someone with pregnancy, that is actually a method of abuse, by the way. It also is a means by which people in rural communities have access to abortion care. All right. We're going to stop there for now. We're going to stop there. Furthermore, we want to make it very clear that in vitro fertilization, according to the Heritage Foundation, is an unnatural means of conception, and that the use of fetal tissue in research is prohibited in all cases. And yeah. It gets really real, guys. And this is, we can go on and on and on and on and on and on because we're going to kind of skip to another portion of this in a second. But what I want you guys to really be aware of is the risk of this. You know, people get caught up on the abortion part. But what we're not talking about is the overarching belief that we are about to become a pro-breeding state. Pro-breeding. We don't care how old you are. We don't care if you want to breed or not. And if you can't take care of this child because you're not married, well, you know, we got some options for you. Especially you teen mothers, you know, with your fertile uteruses. You ever wonder why they don't want to teach you how to prevent pregnancy? I'm about to explain it to you. So now let's get to teens, because this is really something that I think we need to talk about. And then I'm going to bring my daughter on and we're going to just have a conversation. Teen Pregnancy Prevention and Personal Responsibility Education Program, PrEP. Okay, I don't mean to tell you guys this, but PrEP is already in use. Okay, you're going to confuse people. Okay. Maybe you might want to get another acronym, because PrEP is already in use. Let's keep going. Okay. What we want is we want to just promote abstinence. Again, we tried this, right? We tried this. Right. The Center for Medicaid Services should ensure that sexual risk avoidance proponents received grant funding. We tried this once before with the Social Security Title V for abstinence only before marriage education in the 90s, and we really see how that's going, right? Yes, absolutely right. Qualitative research should be conducted. Why qualitative? I thought you guys wanted data. So now you want anecdotal data from the people who you give money to put out programs that you pay for. Got it. It should be discretionary, mandatory, should be both discretionary and mandatory. That's confusing. And it should be conducted on both types of programs to ensure continued improvement. So we need sexual risk avoidance programs. Yes. And then we also want adoption reform. Okay. Again, adoption is a choice to not parent. Okay? That is what adoption is. It is also a decision to parent a child that isn't able to be parented by their biological parent. There are roughly 400,000 children across the nation on the waiting list for foster care and 100,000 awaiting families. Yes. Unfortunately, many of these faith-based adoption agencies that serve these children are under threat from lawsuits. No, they're not. Let me help you with this. What is happening is that they're turning away LGBTQ plus couples who do not have a criminal background history, who have adequate income, and they want to adopt, and they're being told that they can't adopt. So what they want with they love acronyms, man. The Assistant Secretary for Financial Resources should repeal the unnecessary 2016 regulation that imposes non-statutory sexual orientation and gender identity for potential adoptive parents. So, according to them, we have all these children who are looking for homes. But according to the Heritage Foundation, they should only be reserved for heterosexual, cisgender, married couples. Pregnant unaccompanied girls in the Office of Refugee Resettlement should be treated with dignity, not trafficked across state lines. Okay. Only to be victims of the abortion industry. That's the only reason why they're being trafficked. Basically, these girls should remain pregnant. And because they don't have citizenship, they don't have a path to citizenship, they don't have resources, their babies are just taken. And yeah, it's that bad, guys. Okay, so now we're going to bounce around a little bit and we're going to go into child support. And what Project 2025 is implementing is a child support tax credit if you make under $42,000 a year. Okay, so, most people who pay child support don't make under $42,000, so you won't get a tax credit. Sorry, guys and gals. And I don't really think it's necessary. My belief about child support is this: pay it. It's for the child. But the concern about it is that it is often weaponized against the other parent. And until we address those issues, I don't really see where this is going to really take off. The other thing is connecting visitation with child support payments. Currently, in most states, those two are separate orders. And they're separate orders for reasons. According to the child support tax credit, and this is very gendered, by the way, and I want to be clear, there are mothers who pay child support, but they're not represented in this. The key to this policy is that it empowers fathers with their own resources and money rather than creating another government assistance program devoid of the father's own monetary efforts. Basically, if the parent is paying, they should have access to the child. Okay. I don't think most people would disagree with that. But again, there are some real insidious players embedded in this space. So we're going to go on and on and on and on and on and on. But the key takeaways of the Department of Health and Human Services is that there's going to be a great deal of restructuring of regulatory responsibilities with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. They're going to become more of a repository for abortion data. There is a huge push to terminate parental rights immediately for young women, young birthing people, and parents who are simply trying to get it together. There is also a clandestine collusion with Child Protective Services and the overemphasis on attempting to codify gender identity. Parents who affirm their children's gender identity as child abuse. Furthermore, it goes into the scientific freedom, not requiring people to wear masks, and then finishing up with, regulating health insurance to the states and child support forgiveness, and I don't know. Honestly, I think that this section was probably the most incensed for me because it really was all over the place. And it was so clear that it was just an ideological pot of gumbo that was literally focusing on a breeding state. And by the way, no one's having abortions at 39 weeks. No one.